Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? Diggy546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so as you see, there is complete and utter devastation behind me. This is what's going on in the stadium. Shout out to Talking Giants because the stadium might need to be burned down. It might need to be burned. First of all, it's not really a nice stadium. It's not. Man. Oh man, what a mess! What a mess that we've made as a team. What a mess that was yesterday. And today is supposed to be the calm after the storm, but I think it's going to be a storm for a pretty long time this season. But let's get straight to it. I wanted to cover some of my main points from the offense and defense. So let's start off just in general. Those uniforms, again, I will say I don't like. I like, for some reason, the fans that wore the jerseys. The fan jerseys look good of those. But on the field, those uniforms were they just didn't look good. The uniforms didn't look good. And then on top of that, you couldn't even understand what player was which. I was on the stream trying to, do my best to call the game. And I'm like, this player does this, and I can't even tell who it is. Because not only did they wear a different uniform, they changed the font of the numbers, and the font doesn't really show up when you look at it. And then there's like this box that the numbers are inside of, and the box just kind of distorts. You know how you would normally look at a player from their proportions? The box kind of distorted everybody's proportions. So it was just a weird uniform. And it makes sense that, they wore it almost 100 years ago because, I mean, there were no cameras and it was black and white. I mean, you couldn't really tell who was who anyway. So, getting into the offense, though, Daniel Jones was horrible. We all know that. I may come out with another separate video specifically on how he played and some opportunities I thought he had, but he was horrible. He threw the ball 42 times, guys. I want you to pay attention to these stats. Daniel Jones dropped back and threw the ball 42 times. This isn't counting the 5 sacks that he ran himself into 4 of them. So out of the 47 times that Daniel Jones dropped back, he attempted 9 out of 47. 9 out of 47 passes he attempted were over 10 yards. What can you say to that? 9 out of the 47 pass attempts were over 10 yards. And then on that, in that area between between 10 and 20 yards, he was 4 for 9. You want to know what his completion percentage was over 20 yards? 0. He didn't attempt one pass over 20 yards. Not one. Not one. Maybe the one to Malik was about 18 yards. But as far as air yards, not even air yards, but yards from the line of scrimmage to 20 plus yards downfield, he didn't attempt one. So that is absolutely inexcusable. Which, I'm not going to focus too much on Daniel. I talked about him yesterday. I may make another video. So let's move on to Daboll. Daboll was an atrocity. Daboll did not do well at all coaching the game. He didn't do well prepping the players, no matter what they say about a good week of practice. He didn't do well calling these plays. He played scared. He coached scared against Brian Flores. He was scared that Flores was going to send 8, 9 guys every time, and he played like it. He played like he was scared. He played like he didn't respect or trust his quarterback, which guess what? You made a decision. Maybe not him mostly because you got Shane and Mara, but it looked to me like Daboll had something to do with Daniel Jones coming back. And then also, man. Either way, Daboll coached scared. You're not going to win games like that. You're just not going to win games like that. Brian Flores completely outcoached him. 12 personnel most of the day. I mean, sometimes 13 personnel, and just ridiculous stuff, man. Like Tight ends all over the field. Man Hurts out there. Bellinger out there. Theo Johnson played at like 70-something% of the snaps. So that kind of shows you that they like Theo Johnson, and I'll touch that in a minute. But Jalen Hyatt didn't even get on the field. He had like 16 snaps, and I don't think he got on the field until the second half. So I don't know if they're doing some kind of doghouse thing because he doesn't, he's upset that he got, he's not a starter. But who cares, man? Throw the guy out there. You need to be rotating him and Slayton in and out of the game, having them stretch the field and taking deep shots. And this is what we heard all offseason, that we were going to be explosive. We were going to take the shots. We were going to be aggressive. And we haven't done any of that. We didn't do any of that yesterday. We didn't even attempt one pass over 20 yards. And people say, well, it's kind of easy to say that, you can throw the ball down the field over and over again, but the offensive line has to protect. I promise you, folks, when I come out with a film session tomorrow on Daniel Jones, most likely, or even Malik Neighbors, I'll be able to draw C's around the pocket that Daniel Jones had. He had plenty of opportunities. And the Vikings did not play cover 2 and cover 4 the entire game. They played a lot of it, but they did not play that the entire game. There were opportunities to throw it up to Malik Neighbors. If you don't trust the other guys, there were opportunities all over the field. And Daboll did not press the issue. We did not go deep. We just didn't. No shot plays, no attempts over 20 yards. It's ridiculous. How do you expect to win a football game in the NFL if you can't throw the ball 20 yards downfield? Receivers, I kind of thought the receivers looked like they had potential. Wandale, we've already seen him play. He had a nice spin move where he literally spun past 3 people. It looked like a Madden animation. It was so crazy. Malik, what can I say? 5 catches, 60-something yards. He's on pace for over 1,100 yards already. Malik is quarterback proof. He's going to be a guy that's going to get 1,000 yards easily this year. Theo Johnson, again, Theo Johnson was open multiple times today, which makes me say, maybe Daboll wasn't so crazy about the 2 tight end sets and having Theo run these routes instead of Hyatt, because Theo was open. But guess what? The ball was in the dirt. The ball was in the dirt. Daniel Jones threw it behind him. He threw it in the dirt everywhere but an accurate pass. So I think these weapons, these young weapons, have some potential, but we cannot get them the ball. To save our lives, we can't get them the ball. And I know people say, well, Drew Lock is worse. Drew Lock had a horrible time in that preseason game, but he may not. I don't know if he's worse than what we saw yesterday from Daniel Jones. Whew, man. Okay. Offensive line was great in pass protection, but in the run game, I need to see some more. We just didn't get enough push consistently. There weren't enough open holes. There were a couple of missed runs from Eric Gray, and that's what I was about to say, Eric Gray. There were a couple of missed runs there. And then you look at the yards from the running backs. Just need to do better. 45 yards on 14 carries for these running backs. I think that's like, 3-something yards a carry. Saquon had games like this too. So let's not get into like, oh, if we had Saquon, we would have won the game. Let's be real. We saw Saquon run the ball like 18 times for like 2 yards before. Let's not act crazy. And then let's look at the defense. Kayvon was non-existent, as he is in a lot of games. He has games where he goes against backups and he terrorizes them. And then he has games like this where he goes against a good right tackle and he just kind of, gets his cardio in. And of course, in his interviews, he's going to say, I had to set the edge. I had to do this. I had to do that. I had to make sure that this was done right. A lot goes into it, which is true. But also sometimes you're either a good pass rusher and you made an impact on the game or you didn't. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yes, there is more to the game than sacks, 100%. But if you're not affecting the quarterback and you're an edge rusher and you're not in Wink's system where you're constantly just dropping back, I would say that I need to see more from Tibbs. I just need to see more from Tibbs, which is why I decided not even go with that background that I normally have, because it's Daniel Jones, the one enemy over the left shoulder and the other enemy over the right shoulder. Because both of these guys are just they're just disappearing artists. They just come and play well, and then they just disappear. So that's what I have to say about him. Brian Burns, I'm not taking too much from it because he was going against an all-pro left tackle, but we're paying you 30 something million dollars. So even though you're going against a all-pro left tackle, I mean, hit the quarterback a couple times, man. Like, get in the quarterback's face a couple times. We're paying you way too much money to get shut out just because the dude's an all-pro. I want you to be playing at an all-pro level. So it should have been much more of a clash than that. But Burns kind of got shut down last year by Darius Saul. So crazy stuff there. Um, these rookie DBs I thought looked good. Newbin had like 7 or 8 tackles. Phillips forced a fumble. I don't know how Phillips and Newbin did in coverage, but as far as the tackling and some of the plays they made, those were good plays. Darius Moisau was all over the field as far as tackles go, but I don't think he's a good player when it comes to coverage. And running backs were kind of abusing him. Dexter Lawrence, saving grace of the game. Uh, 7 pressures, 1 sack. Um, when he comes off of the field, it is ridiculous. It's been the same way for the last almost since Leonard Williams left. Every time Dex comes off the field, they just run the ball. They just run it, run it, run it, and it's always successful. Every time he comes off the field, that's how bad our defensive tackle depth is. We went from having Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence, and Leonard Williams to having just Dex and an sundry of random guys. Being honest with you, so they just gashed us in the run game whenever Dex came out, and that's a big problem. Um, like I said, he got the 7 pressures and a sack. He did his thing. He showed up to the game. Now the other guys on the front line, they did not make an impact. They just didn't. Um, yeah, that's all I have on Dex. And then let's wrap it up with the 2 outside corners. Adoree had that bad penalty that he didn't even commit. That Addison clearly interfered with him, didn't let him get his hands up to try to go for the ball. But it is what it is. That didn't really impact the end of the game. But McLeod, he's not a starter. What we thought made sense, which is he's a good guy to come in relief, but he's not somebody that you want as your starter that people can game plan to go against. He's not that guy. So send him back to the bench. Adoree is going to probably get more reps this upcoming week. And then I think Deontay Banks was solid. He didn't give up 100+ yards on Justin Jefferson. He didn't get shredded all day. Gave up about 50-something yards. Had that huge play that he gave up on the sideline to Justin Jefferson, which was a badly timed play because I think we kind of had momentum at that point. And then gave up the slant route. So nothing too crazy. Didn't give up too much on that slant route. I thought he made as about a good a play on the football as he could have. He literally jumped. I mean, he was right there. It was just a good catch by Justin Jefferson, and it is what it is right there. But I wouldn't say I left this game feeling like Deontay Banks can't cover wide receiver ones because I don't think he did a horrible job. It just the entire game just went bad. So these are some of the high level takeaways. I mean, like I said, my biggest issues this game, the defense. I mean, giving up a 99-yard drive is unacceptable. The offense not scoring a touchdown after your defense gets you the ball at the 20 is also unacceptable. And then, like I said, the stat that I'll just close this with that I already have mentioned is Daniel Jones threw the ball or dropped back 47 times. And that's not even counting the runs that he took off with. So maybe around closer to 50 times and only attempted 9 passes over 10 yards and only completed 4 of them. He completed 52% of his passes and 90, like what? Most of his passes, at least 78% of his passes, weren't even 10 yards. And he only completed 52% of his passes. That is horrible. That's horrible. So we've got to do something to get this right, whether it's letting him play out the season and drafting a quarterback or sitting him down. But with this injury clause, if Daniel Jones comes out and plays like he played this first game against Washington, I think they may give him one more week. And then if he's going to stink it up against the Browns and the Cowboys. And once he does that, I don't think he makes it through those 2 games as a starter. I think they'll sit him down, because having to pay him that money next year is no bueno. It's not good. It's just not going to be good for anybody. Maybe good for him, but not good for anybody on the actual Giants side. So that is, these are some of my takeaways from yesterday's game. It was a horrible game. And you guys let me know how you're feeling. Crazy stuff. If you made it this deep into the video, come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.